From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to you. It is the December 1st edition of Weather Weeklies, new month, and very conveniently, we have a winter storm to deal with. We're going to get into that in the beginning of this video, and then we're going to touch on some longer range stuff. So for those of you that are just here for the, what's going to happen, or maybe expand upon what we released last night as our calls, we'll do that here in the beginning of the video, and then we will go into the longer range after that if you don't want to stick around. So today is, for those of you not familiar, the Weather Weeklies video is done every Sunday morning. It is a editorial video blog where I give my own opinions. It might not necessarily be the same as what the company looks like as a whole, but usually it is. And the long range is basically what we're covering here in this video. So going forward here in time, it's our long range chart that we start off with in every video, and do this every Friday. So I'm the one that does a long range for the company. We have... and then I break down periods in the future for the entire month of December. So this is just a 1 month lead that we do every single Friday. So we'd kind of recap this to start off here. And you can see we have slightly below average temperatures that we're going to be dealing with right through about the 8th of December. After that point, I think we hit a very short-lived slightly above average period, or near to slightly above average period. Then we step back a little bit, for a couple days, and then we're back to slightly above average. I do think we're going to have the second and third weeks of December generally finish slightly above average during that period, and we're going to have some milder periods to contend with during that period. But it doesn't last, I don't think. I think once we get around Christmas or just after that, we're going to have a slightly below average period. It's going to go right into New Year's, and I do believe that carries right into January, and I'll discuss that here in this video. Of course, we're dealing with this winter storm here over the next couple of days. Today is the icy side of it. Monday is the snowy side of it, and that is all wraparound precipitation with the cold conveyor belt that we've been talking about in the daily forecast videos. That is still there. The extent of that is to be determined. We're going to have a final call today at 5 o'clock, where it's going to hone in everything with our current call. As of right now, it stands. And there are a few models that kind of spooked a few people last night, like the NAM, and things have started to come around toward what the existing models were showing that disagreed with the NAM not having snow very far to the south. So we'll cover that here in this video. And this storm, so I do want to mention this storm signal I have written here on the 10th. I just put storm signal, not winter storm signal, because we weren't sure if it was going to have a wintry side. It's not looking like it will be wintry for the vast majority of that system. Okay, so I don't think we're going to have a winter storm here on the 10th. There might be a couple chances of a few flurries or maybe light snow showers during the week, like maybe Tuesday night, Wednesday type thing. We'll see. Doesn't look like a real big deal as far as snow. I think we do have a better storm signal once we get in that last week of December again. So it might not be a lot of wintry events. We have this first one, and we might be a bookend type thing, beginning of December, end of December type thing, where we have some bigger storm threats. But by the time we get to the end of December, more of you should be getting into snow. Okay, so this November is over. We did finish below average temperatures, slightly above average precip, and slightly below average snowfall across the region. And this is December's projection. We're still going with temperatures slightly below average and slightly above average, because that's going to have a cold start and cold finish, and then we're going to have slightly above average precip, slightly above average snowfall. So we're maintaining that with this latest outlook. Now here's today, starting with the ice event. We have precipitation is going to, if it hasn't started where you're at now, it's going to by about mid-morning, or maybe not, should be any minute. We have initially, this is a 1 hour breakdown, starts off as sleet here in this reddish temperature, or reddish color, and then you have this freezing rain in purple. And further to the south, you're going to have a changeover to rain this afternoon. That gets all the way up to just north of I-78 as we head toward late afternoon and evening. So it is going to hold on longer in these areas up here. And because of that, we have these, this is the snow and sleet totals for just today. This has nothing to do with Monday. And you can see maybe a coating to an inch, half inch in these gray areas. So not much of any sleet. Sleet and snow, by the way, are grouped into the same category. A lot of people don't realize that. So when we're talking about accumulations of snow, When you have sleet, that gets added into that. So if you just have straight sleet, no snow at all, no snowflakes, it still counts as snow, okay, because they both accumulate, whereas freezing rain accrues. Different term there, but a little semantics, but that's how they are grouped together, and that's how the National Weather Service officially does it. A little bit more up here in the higher elevations, but generally coating to an inch in this orange, and then the dark brown is going to be your areas that get 1 to 2 inches on the onset. But further south, for the most of you, it's going to be just a coating in spots to a ½ inch, and that's of the snow and sleet. Here's the freezing rain, though. This is the worst part of it. Now, we're not having some crazy totals here. There's just rain to the south. This stuff in C is just at the onset very briefly, so maybe 0.01 to 0.05. That's not significant, but it doesn't take much ice to cause issues. The areas in B, A and B here are the ones we're watching here for a little bit more in terms of freezing rain, especially, and you see the A areas are highlighting areas of elevation. So those areas between 0.15 and 0.33, but otherwise in the area B here we have 0.05 to 0.15. We did allow for locally higher possible in isolated locations, but this is pretty much what's we expect to happen today when that precipitation moves through. And once we get to the evening, it's going to kind of go into a drizzle or freezing drizzle further south, and then freezing drizzle is going to continue into the evening. Then we're going to have snow come back into the picture. Far northwestern areas are going to get this first. Or far northern northwestern areas. That's going to start later tonight, okay, before dawn on Monday morning. And then it's going to work its way southward. This is our snow map first call that we put out on the website for Monday. Strictly Monday, doesn't consider anything prior. Not that there's going to be much anyway, okay? So this is just strictly Monday and their accumulations for that. I don't see anything that, I mean, the NAM wasn't too thrilled last time we looked at it. It was a little bit better thrilled at the early morning run. I didn't see the new one yet because it's running live at the time I'm recording this video. But we do have the heaviest accumulations up in this area, highest potential F. E and F are pretty much the same thing. We both have 7 to 10 in both areas, but this is the highest potential to exceed 10 up here. Parts of Susquehanna, Wayne, Pike, and Sussex County, New Jersey, Orange County, New York. These areas up here have the highest potential to exceed 10 inches if there were areas to do that. But E is also 7 to 10. Then a little bit further south, you get into a 4 to 7 inch range. C here, which runs from Williamsport through Pottsville, the Lehigh Valley, into much of central New Jersey and coastal New Jersey, including New York City. We don't have a ton of snow there either. I know some models are printing out a ton of snow there. We have 2 to 4 there. Okay, so this area here is a general 2 to 4 area. But then it's a sharp cutoff to the south. This area here by just north of Reading and actually that's including Reading, Trenton, Toms River, that's all 1 to 2. And out here by State College, same thing here in out here in Snyder, Union, Northumberland counties, Montour counties, those are 1 to 2 as well. Further to the south, Harrisburg's only coating to an inch. Same thing over here by Philadelphia and Lancaster. So that's what we were expecting last night. I don't see any wholesale changes right now because the overnight guidance not named the NAM model. We're not too really thrilled with this north shift that was occurring on the NAM. Everything else held serve. The European model still held serve last night and again this morning. So I don't think we really need to make some wholesale changes to this just yet. We'll just be fine-tuning today, and that will come out at 5 o'clock today. Here's a look at the European ensembles, and this is from this morning. And you can see it's still pretty aggressive further north. So, and it gets the snow. Now, this is a blend of 51 models all blended together, 51 runs, individual runs. They're all blended together in a mean. And you can still see snow that's coming pretty far south, actually even further south than we have it on our map. So this is something to consider too, not just a north shift, but a south shift. It's very real and very possible. So we'll fine-tune today, update that at 5 o'clock with the final call. Okay, so let's take a look at the long range. Okay, so for those of you who are just here for the short range stuff, that's done with. We're going to get into the examining the temperature periods going forward. I think the first week of December is largely slightly below average, and we're going to have that through about the 8th of December. Okay, so we'll slightly below average temperatures. So we have all this warmth out here in the western U.S. that's going to be making its way eastward. And you're seeing this and you're like, wow, what is this, summer? Well, this is relative to time of year. So it is going to be above average, yes. But this is relative to time of year. So instead of being in the, near 40 or whatever for a high, you're looking at temperatures that are going to be well into the 40s during this period, maybe even touching 50 in a few spots. And that's toward the middle of the month. That's in that period we have outlined. Toward the middle of the month, I think the second and third week of December are going to be above average. at least slightly above average during that period. Why is it doing that? Well, if you look at what phase 3 does, phase 3 is where we're at this point when we get to toward the middle of the month. This is between the 30th of November, 14th of December. Well, we start off over here in phase 1. These are the colder phases here. Phase 1, maybe marginally so phase 2. And then we get into phase 3 as we get into get closer to the middle of the month. Well, phase 1's a cold phase. Phase 2 is marginal. Look what phase 3 is. Looks like that. Let's go back to that last image I just showed you. Wow, that looks familiar, doesn't it? That's a phase 3 look. That's exactly what phase 3 is. So it's no surprise that we're in phase 3 in the middle of the month. This supports the warmer look. The question is, does it continue eastward through 4, 5, and 6 and stay warm, which it shows here? I don't think it does. It looks like it wants to, as we go through time here. Let me get back to this image. Okay. As you go through time, it's starting to collapse, and it should be heading into the circle of death after that, which would mean that the tropical forcing would have very little effect on the pattern. This is something we're going to be monitoring, but I don't think, because of changes in the Pacific, and this is not Madden-Julian oscillation related. Okay, what the Madden-Julian oscillation is a measure of where the best tropical forcing is along the equatorial, in the equatorial Pacific and Indian Ocean, and so we're looking at where that best convection is, and then as the wave moves eastward, it affects the jet stream with different, latent heat releases and things like that. Allows the jet stream to pump up at certain areas, and then we get some ridging when it's in phase 3. We get some troughiness in phase 1, which is why we had the cooler temperature recently. But we have other things that are going on. I'm not going to get really into this. I'm going to completely lose you and confuse you if I start getting too into this, why I think the last week of the month is going to change. And it has nothing to do with the stratosphere. Everybody's been talking about, oh, we're going to have a stratospheric warming event. We could. I don't think it helps you until January. But I think what the bigger thing is, East Asian mountain torque that has been negative is going to be turning positive. Actually, it is turning positive right now, and has a lag time of about 2 weeks or so. So with that happening, I know not many of you are going to know what that means, but a positive East Asian mountain torque eventually downstream will affect our pattern and get us back into this colder, stormier pattern with a negative EPO. We're not going to have a negative EPO over the next couple of weeks. We've had that for much of the second half of November, and we're not going to have that in early December, I don't think. So here's your average highs around December 15th when you expect that warm period. This is what average is. So when you're looking at what's relative to average, and you're seeing temperatures are going to be +6, +8 during that period, well, just add that to these temperatures, okay? So you can have some temperatures that are, still in the upper 40s near 50 that are going to be in the middle of December, okay? Temperatures continue to drop off with time here. This went from November 30th to December 15th to December 30th. You'll see a steady drop off at each location. It goes down about 6 degrees or so from the first of the month to the 15th, and then it goes down another 3 or 4 degrees here from the 15th to the 30th. So there's still a steady drop off on what average highs and lows are for this time of year across the entire region. I picked 6 Climo sites here to give you an idea of what that is. So when you're looking at these average maps, and when you see above average temperatures, it's relative to these temperatures at that time. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, the current ENSO, which is the measure of the sea surface temperatures in the equatorial eastern Pacific that we are concerned about, it is still, these are the changes from last week, got a little bit warmer in some spots, especially in the eastern part, which is a surprise. It did have some warmer temperatures out here where it's still below what is considered normal by -0.1 degrees Celsius. That's not significant, but it did increase from week to week by 0.5 degrees Celsius in the temperatures in that region. And everything else is pretty much similar to where it was last week. So we're still, what that is these areas out in here are generally warmer than the eastern areas. So some of them make an argument this is still an El Nino, and it's a weak El Nino, but a west-based Modoki El Nino. Well, yeah, maybe, but it's not going to stay this way, I don't think. I think you're going to have the cooling take place over the next couple of months, and we're going to see generally an ENSO neutral pattern by the time we get through the month here. So here's where we are right now. This is the updated for November, and we're sitting right about here. It is projected to stay into the ENSO neutral categories, which is anything between plus or minus 0.5 of an O&I index, and it's kind of just on the positive side of neutral, and it stays that way. Actually, straight through the spring and summer as well. Kind of sticks around there. So we're in an ENSO neutral. And with an ENSO neutral winter pattern, this is what you get. Okay, you have cold air coming into, this is the dominant, this is not constant, this is the dominant pattern for the winter in an ENSO neutral pattern. Wet a lot with a subtropical jet across the southern United States and a little warmer down here. And then we get the colder blast coming in here. And a lot of that has to do with the EPO, yet bridging into Alaska, bridging on the western side of the country. That gives you a trough in the east, and then you have a colder air mass, generally colder than average air mass, that settles into our region. But it's not going to be a constant thing. So I don't want you to think like, oh, wow, we're going to be brutal for months and months on end here. Well, you're going to have some moderation periods in between. But you're going to have the predominant pattern is going to be colder than average, and we're going to have an active pattern with more precipitation. So it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. We have colder than average temperatures as a predominant pattern with a wetter pattern coming in. You're going to have some snow. Okay? So that's still hasn't changed in our long-range thinking. And just to summarize here, we are monitoring ice and the ice today and then snow Monday, and we'll have a final call later today at 5 p.m. Again, right now I don't see any wholesale changes to be made with that, but we are going to, of course, monitor that and adjust as needed today, and we'll have an update at 5 p.m. It'll be the final call for that product for Monday. Everything that's on there about snow and ice or sleet and freezing rain for today, those are final calls. We're riding with it. Those aren't going to change. Okay, the milder stretches expected weeks 2 and 3 of December will transition to cooler temps before Christmas. I think it's going to be right around there. You're going to have an opportunity to get back to slightly below average temperatures for the last week of the month between Christmas and New Year's, and that's going to continue, I think, right into January. See, last week of December and January turn cold and snowy, with a stormy pattern also settling in. Watch for a storm here at the end of the month as well. Right before, during that week between Christmas and New Year's, I think we're going to get a snow event in there too. So we might have a bookend situation where we start off with this winter storm and then we end with a winter storm. For those of you further south that are going to be missing out on this particular storm, you might have to wait till the end of December before you get something. You're going to be probably in this period here, this milder stretch, you're not going to get any chance at all. Actually, nobody will probably, of any snow events, unless it's going to be some kind of slop at the onset type thing, or maybe some mixing, changing to rain, or something like that, or maybe a cold front moving through, and then you get like snow and the snowflakes on the back end. That's about all you're going to see here in the middle 2 weeks of the month. I think it's just this week when it's colder, and then at the end of the month when we turn colder again after that milder stretch in between. So that's this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 1st. We are discussing this storm here in the premium form. If you want to get the text alerts, if you have not signed up for them yet, I'm going to send those out this afternoon, probably 2:30 or something like that, 2:30, 3 o'clock. So if you get in there and signed up for those text alerts before that point, you will get on the list today for everything to expect for this storm that is in the nearer term, but then you'll also be set up for the rest of winter, which is going to be quite busy, we think, once we get past that middle period of December where we're a little bit milder. Once we turn colder, I think we stay that way, and we're going to have a stormy pattern going right into the rest of the winter. Plenty of opportunities, but if you want to get in on the text alerts for this storm, make sure you do so by, I'd say, 2:30 today before we can, so you can make sure you get on that list of dissemination list to get the specific amounts and timing for your specific location for this next storm. I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchus. That's this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 1st. Join us again next week. We'll have another update for this long-range pattern. Hopefully have a better idea for what's to be expected at the end of the month going into January.